So I think it makes sense, at least for me, that I start with the game that got me into playing the Xbox One, and in a way, then you guys get to be on this journey with me as well. And then kind of from there, see the games that I played, you know, literally one after another. And I didn't get an Xbox One at launch. So I waited 1 year because there was one specific console that I really wanted. I had seen it at PAX. It was previously only available to people who worked on the Xbox One team, devs, or I assume people in that whole Xbox group. And I waited and I pre-ordered this one with the console, but at the time it didn't have the physical, at least not in the box. So later on I bought the physical, and that game was Sunset Overdrive. And yeah, came out in 2014 then, I would say, because if the Xbox One came out in 2013, this was a 2014 release. And I got the the fat Xbox One, so to speak. It only came with a digital download, so I didn't actually have the physical. And to be fair, I wasn't really that big of a physical collector at the time, because it wasn't really until maybe, yeah, it was around that time, maybe a year or two later, that I really started collecting physically. So I was fine with digital and stuff, but I wanted to have Sunset Overdrive because it became one of my favorite games on the Xbox One. And I know it was kind of a little bit divided at first, but overall, it's a really good exclusive for the Xbox One, and nothing like Xbox has had previously. So there you go. Here's some 2-day Xbox Live trials. Remember these guys? It's just don't really use them a whole lot anymore, I guess. But you had some extra stuff here. It's like a download code and some advertisement for Halo Master Chief. So at least the early titles had a little bit of you know, some stuff inside the case, but as you'll probably see later on here, there wasn't a whole lot. But Sunset Overdrive was really fun game, and I still have yet to play it on, I think it is Windows has a version that I think I either purchased or it was on Game Pass at some point. But really fun game. I really liked it. I even liked it in multiplayer too. I thought it was interesting. It's kind of had like a randomized game mode, and you know, some achievements to go with it that were, you know, based on that randomization on what game modes you got and what kind of last horde mode at the end and stuff. So, but you know, I had fun with friends. You know, it was one of those games that garnered a lot of interest at the time, and a lot of people joined in to play. So yeah, I think it's a fun game, and I should definitely check that one out if you haven't. And it was my first, so you always kind of remember your first game of a console. And then I moved on to this one, and this was kind of a multi-platform release, and even came out on Xbox 360 as well. And but I think this one is a little bit underrated. You know, this company actually went under shortly after they released this game, so I guess Square Enix didn't quite like the output on, or the earnings from this one. But that's Murdered Soul Suspect. So this one is kind of more of a, it's not a horror game, but it's more like an action adventure. You know, it has a little bit of everything, some murder mystery, of course, because you're trying to solve your own murder beyond the in the afterlife. So very interesting, and it takes place in and around Salem, Massachusetts. So you have a little bit of the kind of the witch trials involvement, and you know, there's some enemy encounters here, but not like anything overly difficult or anything. So, but you might recognize Airtight Games. They made Dark Void, and also, was it Quantum Conundrum or something like that? That puzzle game. So very different, of course, from this game. But I think this one deserves a mention, and definitely very memorable for me from when I played Xbox One games and everything. So thoroughly enjoyed that one. And I even played it on the Xbox 360 as well. So I got full achievement, got all the achievements in both versions there. Okay, so then we had a really awesome reboot. I still very highly regard this one as one of the best shooters of that generation, and one of the best shooters in a long time, really. And that's Wolfenstein: The New Order. And 9 out of 10 is probably right. I recently did a video about 9 out of 10. So I wonder if I gave this one might have been like a 10 out of 10 for me, actually, because I was surprised it was that good. and I do think it got kind of all the praises for that. So yeah, Wolfenstein here. This one had a manual, so like kind of a manual, I guess. There's not much in here, I guess. Yeah, okay. Well, it tells you how to play the game at least. So, but it's nice to have a little bit at least in here. So it might be very underwhelming to open some of these cases, but I still want to do it, you know, just to show. Yeah, so this was an amazing reboot in my opinion. And as you can imagine, then being my third game on the Xbox One, I was naturally very excited. This one also came out on Xbox 360 with, I think, 4 discs. I still have that one, and I did play it. It was definitely very playable on the 360 as well. So, but yeah, really, really good game. And I think just anything from the start to the final boss. I mean, this was a really good game. It's probably still my favorite Wolfenstein game, to be honest. And I think I've played all of them at this point. So really great first-person shooter, and not overly difficult versus like some of the later Wolfenstein games, I should say. But since I played these games too, I'm just going to group them together instead of going by when I played them. If it is part of a series and stuff, I'm just going to group them together, so it's kind of easier to see it. But otherwise, I'm going to go in the order I kind of played them. But a little bit later on, I played Wolfenstein: The Old Blood. And this one is also really good. I think this was originally intended to be DLC. So it was not going to be a standalone. So this is naturally going to be a little bit shorter than the New Order, but still worth playing as well. I feel like they went a little bit more the stealth route in this one. There's, of course, stealth in all of them, but this one was a little bit more catered towards stealth. But again, really good little side story, or it's more of a prequel to the New Order. So worth playing this one too, for sure. And you can get these two in a double pack as well on Xbox One. So if you want to save a little bit of money, I am a fan of the double packs these days. I've made a couple of videos about that too. So there are options there if you're just really looking to save money and not buy individual ones. But I also like to have the different releases for more collectability as well. So, but Old Blood is also very good. And then we have more of the infamous Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus. Also really good. I enjoyed it. For some reason, I didn't enjoy it as much as New Order, but really good still. And this is obviously the latest one. I should say the latest one that I thought was good, at least. There's Young Blood, and I don't even know if that's it really should be part of this, but I guess it is somehow. But I don't think Young Blood is that good though. But New Colossus is very good, and I played this when I got like the you probably have seen the action figure edition, so that's how I got the Steelbook, and I opened that one, and I just got like a standard edition here that I haven't even opened yet. So, but you know, this all these games I think should be pretty cheap, but as you may know, with the New Colossus, it has at least one of the most difficult shooter achievements to go through the game without dying, and on the hardest difficulty. So I also recently talked about Max Payne 3 with Shadows Rush Me, so that one is another achievement that kind of eludes me a little bit. I would like to do it someday. But yeah, it's going to take a lot of practice and a lot of patience to do that, because this game, yeah, it is pretty tough. So, you know, I think it's going to be quite the challenge. But great game, though. All three of these I highly recommend playing if you're liking shooters. But it's hard to imagine that people haven't heard about these games at this point. But, you know, still wanted to put my recommendation in there, too. And then the next game is a series that I haven't actually played a whole lot of. I know this is kind of one of the earlier stealth series and heavily contributed to the way that stealth games were going as well. Or at least in modern stealth games and stuff. And that's Thief. And this is sort of like a reboot. And I'd mentioned this previously in other videos too. That's when Square Enix, I think they bought like a lot of more mainstream companies like Eidos and IO Interactive and Crystal Dynamics and everything. So I feel like this was when Square Enix was one of my favorite publishers, actually, when they had all these games. But yeah, Thief was... I thought this was very interesting as well. And it had some performance issues on the Xbox 360, but it ran just fine on the Xbox One. And, you know, I didn't play it at launch and everything. I'm always very careful not to play most games at launch because it's almost like you're, you know, if you're impatient, you really want to play a game, that's understandable, but you're almost these days looking to be a bug squasher. You know, you just want to find bugs and things to post videos about. So, you know, it's kind of I tend to wait until they've done a couple of patches at least to play a game, and I'm sure a lot of you can agree with that. This to me was a great experience. I wouldn't give it like a 10 out of 10, but I think it's probably like a 7 or 8 out of 10. You know, I think this was a very good stealth game. If you actually want to try to be stealthy and not go into combat too much and just kind of go around doing missions and stealing things, you know, and I like stealth games, so for me this was an easy pick, and from my experience this was a fun game. And the next one here is kind of a no-brainer for me because it was one of the few reasons why I jumped over to the Xbox One from time to time, because I was still working on Xbox 360 games, and I love playing on my 360 still and at the time, but I had to for this one pre-order. I even bought the season pass early, which I never do. Like, that's unheard of. I never like to pre-order season passes, but I did for this game, and that was Batman Arkham Knight. Really awesome game. You know, you probably have, if you watch some of my other videos, I know I referenced that, but I've talked about the Arkham games a lot. I do like them quite a bit. Arkham Knight was an improvement over the previous ones. I have soft spots for various reasons for Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and even Arkham Origins as well. Arkham Knight, though, was very good. It was kind of more of a original story with Arkham Knight. So, yeah. Then you could do the Batmobile in here, and had a manual, which is cool. Probably the same as the other ones I've shown here. But it's still nice to have something in there. Yeah, so amazing game. I love this one, and I think I want to go back and replay this one. I was hoping they would kind of remaster this one for Series X, but they haven't done that, so I guess I'll have to just replay it. I think it was on Game Pass, or maybe still is on Game Pass today, but yeah, very, very fun open world game, and they took kind of the Arkham City to the next level there with the Batmobile. And, you know, you could kind of argue there was some sections there that didn't really need the Batmobile as much, like climbing buildings and stuff. And if you play the Season Pass DLC, and there's a lot of races that kept getting released, and I remember at the time that it kind of annoyed me because I wasn't like, I wanted more story DLC and stuff, which they did have, like shorter ones, of course, but yeah, no, I wasn't too pleased with all the races for the Batmobile in the end, but yeah, that's how it goes. And let's move on to the next series here, or next series of games. I hadn't played a lot of this one until this release, which this is kind of like a prologue, I guess. Which I did still enjoy, but even going through and doing all the achievements for this one, it was like a lot of copy paste, a lot of repeat. You just kind of changed up how you completed the one mission, I believe it was, and that was Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes. So even if this was kind of like a prologue, I still enjoyed it because I like stealth games, but I hadn't played a lot of Metal Gear up until this point. So you might say that I started at the wrong time here, or at the wrong point in the series, but I still enjoyed playing this. And, you know, maybe if I hadn't played this, I wouldn't have even cared too much about Metal Gear, but I liked it as an entry. It's an easy way to get into Metal Gear, I would say, if you play this one. And I think it is still available digitally as well, but, you know, if you find this one, also released on Xbox 360 as well, so I played it twice, so that's a little bit much to stack this game, but if you can even call it a game, it is like a prologue. So, but I still enjoyed it though, and again, that's kind of how I got more interested or invested in Metal Gear as well, so definitely wouldn't pass up on it, especially if you play the next one here, which I really thought it's probably one of the better games, honestly, on the Xbox One. And PS4, of course. You know, that's Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. So good. I mean, this game is amazing. And I kind of missed out on playing it on the 360 as well, because they did shut down some services here, which, you know, you can kind of argue with single player games. Like, why do they keep doing that kind of stuff? I have another game in a different stack here that I will get to eventually. But yeah, I had the same kind of thing. You got resources for doing something in single player, and then they shut it down, and you couldn't complete a couple of achievements and stuff. So that's really dumb. But at least this one had, I think this is a map or a poster or both. It's two-sided, so one side is a map and then the other one's a poster, maybe, I don't know. And then some DLC stuff here, and yeah, so really cool. I love when, during this generation, when games had maps and everything, so posters and maps. But yeah, this one is a fantastic game, one of the best out there for stealth and everything. So really awesome. And I think it was Kojima's last Metal Gear game as well, because after this they did like the Metal Gear Survive, which, you know, isn't really a Metal Gear game. So, but I'm not going to get into that because I'm not like hardcore Metal Gear, but I'm sure you hardcore Metal Gear fans out there would probably argue that. All right, so last of this half stack, at least half of the stack. This one's a really fun game. I again just love kind of the superhero stuff, or kind of the comic book stuff. Not much of a comic book reader, but I do like the games and movies. And that's, of course, Deadpool. And this one was a lot more fun than I expected, really. And I played this one again on, Xbox One and on the 360. So this was a little double stack here. But Deadpool is really fun. I really enjoyed that game. And funny and good action. It's by the people who made, let me just double check here, I think it's High Moon Studios. So it's the people behind Transformers, and some of my favorite Activision studios all got like put under the subdivisions of making Call of Duty Zombies and stuff, and that's really sad. Like, I would much rather them make single player games still than Call of Duty Zombies maps and stuff. Yeah, High Moon and I think Raven and stuff. Yeah, so very sad. Okay, let's move on to kind of the second stack here, and we'll see how we fare. So what better game to start off with than one of my favorite platformers of all time, Rayman Legends. Oh man, I love this game. This is so good. I played on the 360 as well, 100% completed both of them. And really the only pain about this one is the challenges you have to do towards the end, because you have to get these medals that take quite a bit of time. I mean, in real time, I think first time it maybe took me 3 to 6 months, and then on one of the versions, I can't remember which one I played first, but I may have played this one first and then I went to the 360. But one of them I practiced so much that those weekly and daily challenges and stuff, I started getting like diamond on them. So I was very proud of myself for at least practicing, and shaved off a lot of time on doing that. But man, yeah, they're no joke. There's some really good people on there that are still playing and still getting diamond cups and whatever else, you know. So but you can of course just get kind of just a gold cup or a silver, and, you know, just take your time with it. There's no rush really. But I do think at some point they shut down, or they were threatening to shut down those services. But I mean, this is like the only thing we have left from Rayman Legends. If you go through the story mode or all the levels, and you do even Rayman Origins within this game, which is also a ton of fun. This is a 10 out of 10 platformer for me, is what I'm trying to say. So if you haven't played Rayman, you can play Rayman Origins too, but, you know, Rayman Legends is kind of the best of everything. So, yeah, really good. But yeah, that's kind of the last we have of it. And shame on Ubisoft for never kind of reviving this one again. This desperately needs another game. I mean, it's so good. Like, there's a ton of us that love playing single player games still. So I really hope they come around and make more of them, because Rayman is incredible. And then we have, and I guess I realized we haven't had that many exclusives yet, but this is a good one though. And I can safely say that I like this game better than the previous games. And, you know, a lot of you classic gamers on the 360 and everything probably going to disagree with me here, but This is Dead Rising 3. This is the day 1 edition. So unlike Sunset Overdrive, this one actually had like a silver kind of, I don't know, artwork on the front and the back here. See, it's like a little bit rippled, so maybe this material, it wasn't like the most solid, or maybe it just got warped from like heat or a little bit. It's not water damage, but anyway, so this is Dead Rising 3. And yeah, I did enjoy this one more than Dead Rising 1 and 2, because I think this one was more focused on fun, and it didn't really rely too much unless you went to like higher difficulties and stuff. I think there's one achievement you have to play through the game and you can only save like a couple of times, or you only have certain places that you can save. But this one introduced auto saves, which, you know, you can argue that it kind of takes away the charm of Dead Rising. Oh, look, a 3-day trial on this one. So they really wanted you to play online co-op here. So there you go. I don't know if I've used it, but sometimes if it is the game that it came with and it has that whole thing, I kind of put it back in the case. I didn't at first on the 360, I threw them away. But in later years, I started like putting them back and stuff. So, but this one's really cool and really fun game too. Like if you just want to have more of a stress-free experience with Dead Rising, and it runs really well too, and it looks really great. So if you want to have more of a stress-free experience with Dead Rising, definitely play this one, because I think the first two, that's kind of what made Dead Rising the games. You had that time limit, and you can only save certain places, and you would lose a ton of progress. And so this one, though, ton of fun. I really loved it. And then I wanted to show this as well, because this is kind of relevant to DLC and everything. So this is the Apocalypse edition of Dead Rising 3. This is one that I actually bought first, so I had access to the DLC and everything. And the DLC was fine too. I don't think it was anything noteworthy, but you play as like different characters here. So new weapons, new vehicles, new all that stuff, new characters. So this one I think is code. So unfortunately, unless you, wow, I couldn't even rotate this disc here. So unless you buy it brand new, or you just get lucky and buy a copy and then the code is in here, you'd be surprised how many people buy an edition like this and they don't even redeem this code. Countless times I found an unused code in one of these, so it might be worth checking that. And but safest thing is probably to buy it new like I did, so then I had access to everything. So but yeah, this is probably the way to go if you don't have a problem with it. But then yeah, there's no DLC on the disc, unfortunately, which is how I prefer it. And of course, Dead Rising 3, in case I forgot to mention, it was an exclusive on the Xbox One, so it was a launch title as well. And this game was very talked about before it was released, and I actually bought this at launch. I didn't play it right away though, but I did like the previous games that this company had made, and that is Dying Light. And I was on the fence about including this one in this video, because I don't think this is the best game I've ever played. And, you can argue that not all of these are 10 out of 10s or anything like that. That's not always what matters to me, if it is a 10 out of 10. Like, did I enjoy the game? Do I think it was better than other games I played in that genre and everything? And Dying Light was one of those games. So after having played Dead Island, this is like what Dead Island should have been, in my opinion. So Dead Island was pretty fun, especially in co-op, but this is really a massive improvement over Dead Island. So obviously it's not the same storyline or anything like that, but it is better in a lot of ways. And I never fully got to play this one in co-op. I did do the co-op achievements, whatever was required for it, but I still think this one is one I'd wish I'd played in co-op, because it seemed like it would be an even better experience. So definitely worth checking this one out. Like, it's, again, Dying Light has become very mainstream at this point, with Dying Light 2 and everything, but I actually enjoyed this game more than I thought I would, because I kind of went into it thinking it was going to be alright, it's kind of Techland Dead Island style, but yeah, I did enjoy it, and I still have some of the DLC left to play as well, which I don't have that physical release, but I think there was like something edition with all the DLC, and they kept re-releasing this many times, so I don't know, it's hard to keep track of some of the Dying Light editions. Next one shouldn't be a surprise. I've talked about this series, easily one of probably my top 5 series, and This one was another one where I just like I put down everything I was doing on the Xbox 360 and I jumped to this one, and that is Dishonored 2. And this one is very reflective here because it has like a black, so I'll have to hold it up a certain way so it doesn't look too weird. Yeah, so this one is phenomenal, and as much as I like the first one, I had a very hard time like picking one or the other. So they're really, to me, 10 out of 10s in different ways, you know, and I know that sounds weird, but this one improved on a lot of things. And the level design here is remarkable. I mean, it is so good. Some of these levels, like the Clockwork Mansion, and then you had the Time Warp one where you just kind of had this device that you looked back into the past, and then you could go to the present and everything. And yeah, really smart game. And you can play as Corvo in this one, and then Emily for different playthroughs and stuff, which made it even better, to be honest. Like, you could have different play styles. So I think I picked like more high chaos with him and a low chaos with her. So like I'm more of a stealth route. So, but amazing, amazing game for sure. And to me, one of the best of that generation. And then I had to include this one too. Dishonored: Death of the Outsider. So this is more or less a it's not a DLC, but you know, you see this a lot where something was maybe intended to be DLC and then they added a little bit more to it, and then decided to have a physical, or I should say a separate release of these. So this is, you play as Billy Lurk in this one, so it kind of follows that storyline with Dowd and yeah, Death of the Outsider. So I mean, that's pretty obvious. So and Evil Within too. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, Dishonored: Death of the Outsider is also worth playing through just to get more Dishonored in your life. And I thought it was well worth it as well, really good. And I played it, yeah, on Windows as well. I think I've just tried to like stack these games as much as possible and try to play them different ways, and you know, do missions in ways that I hadn't done before. And yeah, I love games like this. And you would think, me talking about it that way, that I would love sandbox games and, you know, open world games where I can do whatever I want, but I like it better in an environment like that where you do have some structure to it, but it's also lending itself for you to pick how you want to approach it as well. So, and even dealing with the chaos as well, you know, you just never know what's going to happen. But yeah, Dishonored is great. And then we have another exclusive here, and I don't know what happened here. Maybe it was just all the delays, and I feel like people kind of stopped talking about this game, but it was probably one of my favorite Xbox exclusives, alongside Sunset Overdrive, and that's Quantum Break. And this is, of course, by Remedy, and this even included full download of Alan Wake and the DLCs, The Signal, and The Rider. So might be worth it if you haven't played the original Alan Wake, not the remaster, but like the original. And if you want to play this as well, I think this one might still be on Game Pass because it was like a Xbox Studios. But I think this is the biggest shame that that they don't have Remedy anymore. But you know, understandably, they take a while to make games, but they're some of the best out there. And I thought Quantum Break really pushed that with the TV show that they had as kind of like the storyline. And you know, you would cut the gameplay, and the gameplay was also really cool, as we will see in another game that was released during this gen too. But anything I feel that Remedy makes, it feels like next gen every time that they release a game. So Quantum Break shouldn't be missed. You know, it's a very good, in my opinion, very good third-person shooter. But it's not just about that. It's just kind of the immersion of the TV show as well, which was definitely unlike anything I'd played. Can't go talking about Xbox without talking about Halo. And this is Halo 5 Guardians. And I know that some people had some issues with the way that Halo switched directions with 343 and then going from Bungie. And I personally liked Halo 4. Like, I don't know why people had such an issue with it. I know it was a different type of gameplay. And I also liked Halo 1, 2, 3, Reach, all that stuff. I liked Halo 4. I also liked Halo 5. So might not have had the best story versus, you know, something that even Halo 4 had a pretty good story, and the previous games as well. But I thought Halo 5 is well worth it, or at the time at least, it was worth having or getting an Xbox just so you could play some Halo 5. So yeah, more exclusives coming up here, and this one can't be missed though. I think this is, again, I talked about Rayman. This is also one of my favorite platformers, and that's Ori and the Blind Forest. And I will tell you, I actually didn't like this game at first. I was like, oh, what's this overhyped platformer here? And it really is one of those games that really wants you to play it and get good at it and just keep playing it and get through all the hard stuff, and then you just come out of it saying, wow, this game was incredible. And I don't know still how I feel about Metroidvanias. I like platformers, and Metroidvanias can be a little bit frustrating for me, like, because it's just, you have to go to different areas and you have to kind of remember, oh, there was like a little tree stump there that had a hole in it, and then you have to go through it, and then you can get the key to something. And so, you know, it's not always my favorite, but I really enjoyed this one in the end. And I actually played the original Ori and the Blind Forest, the one that didn't have all the fast travel and stuff, so it was way harder than this one. Definitive Edition was made to be a little bit easier at least, but it also added some worse achievements just to balance that out. So, you know, that's kind of how it goes. But great done. And this was also released on a Nintendo Switch, which was kind of a big deal, at least at the time, that it had a Nintendo Switch version of an Xbox exclusive, and it also had achievement support. So it is a very interesting process to get that set up. And then if you mess it up, you can attach it to the wrong account, and then, yeah, it's just kind of a mess. But it works. I've actually successfully set it up, so it's a very interesting for sure. And I'm going to throw in the sequel here as well. Ori and the Will of the Wisps, which I think is an even better game than the first one. I've yet to go through and do some of the harder achievements in this game. But yeah, this one is unbelievable. Love this game. And just another studio that left Xbox Studios, I guess, to start making some more multi-platform games and stuff, you know, which is, you know, completely commendable. And they did an incredible job with the Ori games. And Ori and the Will of the Wisps is even better and should not be missed. If you have an Xbox of any kind, you should play Ori. Like, they're so good. And the final game here is another exclusive, but it's more or less a timed exclusive for a year. But I think Microsoft did great here in getting this one to be a timed exclusive. And I still think this is one of the best games on Xbox One. And that is Rise of the Tomb Raider. And I can't even tell you how many times I played this, and had multiple releases as well. I had 360 release, I had Windows release, that was broken for a long time, and then they just randomly fixed it like a couple of years ago maybe. But I think this is probably the best Tomb Raider game to date. And yeah, really, really awesome game. And it really improved a ton on the Tomb Raider reboot, which I also love that one. But this one just, yeah, took it to that next level. I know a lot of people are probably going to say, oh, this is like basically Uncharted. But hey, if you can make Uncharted and you can make it as good as this, then, you know, hey, kudos to them. So I think they did a phenomenal job on it. So Tomb Raider, I should say Rise of the Tomb Raider, is a must play as well. I love that game, and absolutely looking forward to playing it every time I pick it up. So we had previously talked about one other launch title that I quite enjoyed as well. And it took me, I think, 5-6 years to actually get around to playing it, although I was very much interested in playing it. And that is Rise, Son of Rome. And this is also the Day 1 edition, just like Dead Rising 3. And I would compare this one to something like the Order 1886 on the PS4 in terms of the hype surrounding it and the reception that it actually received in the end. It was a relatively short campaign, but it was still a very good launch title, a very impressive launch title visually. And you can say maybe the gameplay was made to be a little bit more, you know, again, gamer-friendly, user-friendly. And here we go. Here's another 3-day trial. So yeah, I love these though. Like this is actually the Rise Son of Rome trial. And then the day one download here. And yeah, pretty cool. But this is a must play if you have an Xbox One, in my opinion. So it's not that in going back on to the Order 1886, it's not the same gameplay, of course. You play as a Roman soldier here, and it's a very gladiator type of game. Rather than having the simple QTE or the button prompts, it would kind of give the enemy the color of the button you're supposed to press. So if it was Y, it was like yellow, and B, it would be red and stuff. So it was an interesting premise for like a QTE and stuff. So, but I would say most of the time, yes, it was a little bit of hand-holding in this game, but for the story and the experience in itself, I think this one is well worth the buy. And for people who played it at launch, I'm sure this was a great experience. And I also did... actually, I'll show the next edition here as I talk about the multiplayer and stuff. So this is Rise, Son of Rome Legendary Edition. This is, once again, the one that I bought for the DLC. So it had... 4 game add-ons and some solo maps and some bonus skins. But yeah, this one is, I would say, a pretty good deal. I don't know what it goes for these days, but you'll see it will be the same thing as Dead Rising 3. So it has like a download code for it. Here's the same disc, of course, and then it has the download. I think that's the only thing that's in here, no manual or anything like that. So, but it is well worth it though. You have a bunch of multiplayer maps and everything, if I remember correctly. And I had a ton of fun with, yeah, especially randoms. I don't even know if I played this with friends, but I went through the single player campaign, which is maybe like 6 hours or so. So it's not a very long campaign. You can always play it on higher difficulties, of course. But when you go into multiplayer, you can team up with one other person and start doing combos and going through waves of enemies and everything. So I thought this one was pretty fun in multiplayer as well. And of course, this was a Crytek game as well, hence why it says Rise. And you know how they do it. But, you know, I think Crytek has made some pretty decent games over the years. And this one should definitely not be missed, especially if you're looking for just kind of hack and slash story mode with, yeah, I would say some relatively fun multiplayer as well. And then moving on, we have probably one of my favorite and most unexpected games, I think, for many, in terms of how good it actually turned out to be. Sadly, though, this company just recently was shut down and made me very sad. But that is Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor. And that's, of course, Monolith I was talking about there. So very sad. Warner Brothers decided to close that studio. And rather interesting story. I'm not going to go into detail, but I actually once applied for a job at Monolith, and during the interview process, they asked me what my favorite Monolith game was. And, you know, having played this one, I didn't want to be too obvious, like, oh, I just played your latest game kind of thing. So I said Condemned, actually. So I was like really going far back there. And I think they found it very interesting that I responded Condemned. Let's see. This one had a manual. I think it is, you know, a little bit of stuff in here. Yeah, there you go. It has some stuff at least, not just like here's how to play the game, but probably is also just kind of terms of service and everything else. But there's Shadow of Mordor. And yeah, thoroughly enjoyed this one too. So this is kind of like a... I would say they took the best of a lot of games and still made it their own, I would say. You know, so I wouldn't say it was just a copy paste of Assassin's Creed, Arkham, you know, the Arkham games in terms of the fighting, and they had that famous Nemesis system that they trademarked. It would be really cool to see that system in other games too. I thought it was probably the standout feature in that game was the way that you were defeating these captains, commanders, and they would get promoted if they killed you. And it was really fascinating system, and it was a very good game. Really enjoyable, and I've yet to actually play Shadow of War, but I'm looking forward to playing it. But this is, I would say, probably one of the biggest surprises of this generation, in my opinion. So I don't know how most people felt, but I think it was pretty well received overall. And then we also had Shadow of Mordor Game of the Year Edition, which had the Bright Lord campaign and Lord of the Hunt campaign, and then just a bunch of other stuff like challenge modes, runes, skins, and everything. So this one had a different achievement list, actually. And I would assume a different trophy list as well. So this one I played actually both of them and completed both of them. and because they were at some point talking about shutting down some services that you needed for some of the achievements, and I think it was like the challenge mode where you had to go through a certain area, or the challenge was to like defeat all the captains and everything in a certain time limit, which was pretty tough actually. I would say that's probably one of the tougher achievements in this game, but pretty cool that it has, you know, different disc here with all the DLC on disc, thankfully, and a different manual as well. So this one I didn't initially pick up because I bought this digital copy of this. But I decided to get this one. I think it was like $5, so it might be worth going this route if you haven't played this game and you want to play the DLC and everything. But yeah, interesting game modes to pass the single-player campaign, but it was a pretty lengthy campaign, I would say, like maybe the typical 15 to 20 to do everything, and obviously free roam and do all the miscellaneous stuff, you know, if you're interested. But definitely, if you're a fan of those types of games, you know, like the Assassin's Creed and everything, then yeah, I would definitely recommend this one. All right, let's move on to the next. This one, I didn't quite know if I was going to play this one because I'd heard so many bad things about this series, especially as video games, because they hadn't had a good track record of making a lot of good games based on this movie license. But that was Alien Isolation, and this is the Nostromo edition. So it comes with the crew expendable DLC where you could play as Ellen Ripley, Dallas, or Parker. So, I mean, I'm a big fan of the movies as well. I think they are some of the best horror games, some of the best horror movies ever made, sorry, and thoroughly enjoyable. But this one, though, I think surprised a lot of people because I think most of the Alien games up until this point had been more action, and this one was definitely a survival horror stealth game. And as far as I know, there aren't a lot of reviewers and stuff that put stealth games very high up there. So anytime it requires patience, you can't gun your way out of it or whatever, then it tends to get a lower rating, which is exactly what kind of happened here with some reviewers. And I think it kind of put a damper on how good this game really was. One of the best horror games of this generation, and this was one of those games where it truly made me feel terrified. You know, it just not a lot of things scare me in video games, but this one was like you're always on edge trying to like get to one part of the room, and then this alien just drops down, and you also have the androids to worry about. And so yeah, very tense game. But I would say even on the lower difficulties, this game is no cakewalk. So I understand why some people may have been turned off of this game, that it was a little bit tough. Definitely recommend this one if you are into horror games and you haven't even given this a try. I waited a long time, and yeah, really fantastic game. And speaking of horror games, we'll move on to the next one here that also took me quite a while to play. I had actually played the demo at PAX, which was an incredible experience. Bethesda put on this whole show of, yeah, you went into this dark room and you just played one chapter, one area. And I was like, I couldn't, like in hindsight, like I couldn't believe they picked that mission for it, because that mission can be a little bit tricky and you don't have a lot of save points and everything. So I'll just put the game in front instead of talking about it without showing it. But that's The Evil Within. And I love this lenticular 3D slipcover here. And I was actually surprised at that mission that they had you, the mission that they had us play at PAX was like Rubik's Mansion. So I was like, wow, that's a weird place to start. But truth be told, like the beginning of this game is no joke either. I mean, the first couple of chapters really tests you. The village and yeah, no, it's really funny. So I understand why some people may have given up on this game, because I remember first time I played it, I was like, holy crap, this is, you gotta be a little bit stealthy here, and you can't just like go in guns blazing. So it's definitely not like Resident Evil that way. It does turn into, I would say, more action oriented throughout the game, but there's still tons of survival horror in this game too. I almost said within this game, but you know what I mean. So, and I did the alternative cover here. I flipped it inside out, so I thought this one was a little bit cooler. But yeah, let me put it back in the slipcover, actually. It's not that I lose these, but yeah, I just kind of forget to put them back in, I guess, and some of them are a little bit more annoying. There we go. So yeah, Evil Within, and of course called Psycho Break in Japan, which I also have the Japanese version of this game on Xbox One, and one of my favorite horror games for sure. We had the sequel as well, the Evil Within 2, which also is fantastic. It's very different, I would say, and some people might say that this is more polished. You had more, I would say it's like a semi-open world. I wouldn't say it's like a full-on open world, but you sort of had the side missions and more open hubs in a sense that you went through. So yeah, I still liked it. Evil Within 1 is still my favorite. I still think it had more of that gritty feeling and felt more of a survival horror game to me. This one, they definitely upped the production value, I would say, and controls and stealth and everything was obviously improved. I would give them near top marks, both of these. So if you're looking for that kind of, Resident Evil feel to it, a little bit Silent Hill and everything, then, these are, you can't go wrong with them. They're really great horror games. And then we're sticking with Bethesda here. I guess Bethesda was in a very good period here during Xbox One, especially for like the... I would say that more of the third-party developers they had, or like the acquired companies, and that was Prey. Prey is an interesting one because I mean this one falls on a lot of people's underrated list and hidden gems, I would say. And interesting, it's made with Crytek's CryEngine, so not Unreal or anything like that, or even Bethesda's own engine, whatever that one is called. But Prey is an interesting one. It's nothing like the Xbox 360 game that came out, 2006, I think it was. So this one went through kind of a Duke Nukem forever development hell, I would say, until it was given to Arcane at some point, which, to my understanding, after watching some documentaries and everything, they just said, hey, we have this IP, we don't really know what to do with it, so do you want the name, but you can kind of make the sort of game that you want to make out of this, and that's exactly what it is. So that's why it doesn't really have anything to do with the 2006 version of Prey, which, if you played that game back then, it was a pretty decent first-person shooter, with some gravity puzzles and shooting and stuff, so it's kind of interesting. But I would say, just from the playthrough that I did of this game, I still have yet to go through and do all the achievements, but it's sort of like a Deus Ex in space, lots of twists and turns and mystery, and first-person shooter, and it's a very interesting game, I will say. And people say that the DLC for this one is really good. It's very different. It's kind of like a roguelite game mode, and I'm looking forward to playing that one. But yeah, Prey is one of those games that I would say it's like somewhere in between like a masterpiece and a 7 out of 10. Like, I don't quite know where to put it yet, but I had to like put it on this list because it is a very unique game, and definitely give it a try if you are into that sort of thing that I described there, that first-person shooter, sort of RPG elements, Deus Ex kind of thing, so it is a very interesting game though. Okay, next one here is probably one of the only full-on like RPGs that I really like, and it's a reason why I pre-ordered this one, and it's probably the last time I pre-ordered a game from GameStop, because you would get like, I think there was a keychain, a poster, remember when they actually had good stuff that they gave you, and not just semi-crap or like a download code or whatever. But that was The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. And this one is one of the best open world games that I've played. And like I said, I don't really play too many of them, especially not this type, I would say, with, mythical creatures and dragons and that kind of stuff. Like, it's just not my thing. But The Witcher, for some reason, got me. Like, and cool slipcover again. But The Witcher, got me from Witcher 2. And chances are, if I didn't like Witcher 2, I probably wouldn't like this one either. So... but yeah, this one is heavy. It's a heavy boy right here. So here's the disc here, and then you got this little note, which is really cool. And then I don't know if this is the poster or the map. Yeah, there you go. So some map, some stickers, and then and then a compendium here. Yeah, they went all out with this one. This was totally worth pre-ordering, and really awesome. Yeah, so I think this one is a must play. if you like RPGs. And I don't have to tell anyone that, you know, if you've never heard of this game, that would be kind of a surprise, I think, to me. But I still want to include it in this one as, yeah, one of the absolute top games of this generation. And I mean, they've released like a Game of the Year, a complete edition as well. They've upgraded it to the Series X, you know, so there's a version on there too. So there's a couple of different physicals you can buy there. But if you have this one has like a different achievement list where you have to obviously buy the DLC separately. And then you also have the complete edition, which comes with the DLC, and it is its own trophy and achievement list there too. So, and then if you buy that complete edition, you get a free upgrade to the Series X as well. So I guess I could have called this one the Bethesda stack. But this was another reboot, one of the best shooters of this gen. I've been a fan of this series since the very first one, and that is Doom 2016. This one is amazing. I mean, it's awesome. Badass, if I may say so. You know, this is like heavy metal. I mean, it's like non-stop action. So if you are sensitive to too much, I guess, action and heavy metal music, you might not like this one. But yeah, this is fire, honestly. This one is incredible. I didn't play it at launch, but close to it. And there was still like a community with, the online multiplayer and stuff. So you would go in there and, I mean, you would play that similar to, at the time, Halo, Call of Duty, and it was kind of, it was kind of those games on steroids in a sense. And I had a good time with it. I think it was really fun. And, you know, the typical game modes you would see, I got to catch up on them because this is the last Doom that I played. So I'm hoping to dive into Doom Eternal soon, and we'll see how that one is. I know there's a little bit more platforming in that one, but as far as first-person shooters go, this one is one that you have to play. And the next game here is, I would say, on the 360. It was one of those hidden gems for sure. The first two games in this series where a lot of people didn't really talk about them, but due to this game, of course, and the remasters of the first two. But this is a game I had been looking forward to, and I pre-ordered it. I even got like a fancy statue from Europe and everything, and that was Metro Exodus. And this one was, the same type of game, but it had more of an open world feel to it. A hostile open world. But it still kept some levels in here that was the linear type from the first two games. So I still think Metro Last Light is my favorite, but this one is definitely one of my favorites from this generation. And I still have yet to play, I think there's one on PC. They released like a ray tracing edition, which is kind of funny, but yeah, this one is really good. Open world shooter, survival horror, action horror. It's got it all, survival elements as well. And that it came with Metro 2033 Redux or Redo, which this one, if you played the original and then you played this one is so much better. So it's definitely worth playing the Redux over the originals. So I know a lot of people ask me that too. You're just like, what would you recommend? Would you do like, a original game, or would you do the remaster? And I always say it just depends, what's included in the remaster or any kind of definitive edition. But for those two games, for 2033 and Last Light, I would absolutely play the new versions because they are so much better. The first one had like improved stealth and everything, and gunplay, and yeah, it was just brought up to more modern controls and everything, rather than the the little clunkier controls that it had when it first released on the 360. But Metro Exodus, though, it became more mainstream, which I'm okay with. I would rather have some of my favorite games become more mainstream and get more spotlight than they just get forgotten and nobody plays them. But Exodus didn't disappoint. I know there was a lot of hype around it, but they delivered 100%. All right, last game of this stack is another exclusive, very famous series. I don't think I have to do an introduction. If you are an Xbox gamer or a gamer in general, you know exactly what series this is, and that's Gears of War 4. And this edition here came with, Gears 1, 2, 3, and Judgment. So this was before Game Pass, so this was a pretty good deal at the time. Right now, obviously, if you have Game Pass, you get all the games for free or as included as part of the subscription. And let's open her up here. Yeah, So we have, it's one of those discs again. They're just don't want to rotate. But yeah, the Gears of War 4, and then you had the code for all of them here, and then some stickers. And I don't know, what am I supposed to put this on? Like my car or like my laptop? Like what's the purpose of this? I don't know if I've ever used it, but I guess I could put it on my laptop or something. Put on my jeans. It's not gonna stick, but it was a good deal to have these 4 games at the time. And if you hadn't played them, if you just got an Xbox One, and yeah, for use on Xbox One. So I guess at this point they had backwards compatibility, so it's good. But yeah, Gears 4 obviously followed the different storyline of Marcus Phoenix's son, JD. And even if people say that 4 and 5 are not as good as 1, 2, and 3, and, you know, I totally get it. I think the trilogy is fantastic. For what it was, I thought the campaign was fine. You know, I played it solo. I usually play it in co-op. This time I didn't really play it in co-op, so may have hurt the score a little bit for me, because I know Gears are always best to play in co-op. It was a good Gears game, and I still think it deserves to be on this list right here. I, surprisingly enough, haven't played Gears 5 yet, so that's going to have to be in like a future video with a lot of other good games I still haven't played. So it's one of those things that gets away from me, but I thoroughly enjoyed it for the couple of playthroughs I've done of this game. And this one I did play on Game Pass, I believe, so I can't really call this a hidden gem at this point. And that was A Plague Tale: Innocence. Like I said, this was, yeah, a big surprise, I think, to a lot of people, that especially for the story in this one and the relationship between the brother and sister, Hugo and Amicia. And I think Asobo Studio, if I'm not mistaken, they made, was it Disneyland Adventures, Connect and everything, and possibly Flight Simulator? So yeah, not exactly what you would associate with this type of game, where, yeah, you're dealing with the rat plague in France, and you have, yeah, the Rat King and all sorts of things. But I thought it was a very smart game as well in terms of how they did the stealth, because obviously you're made to feel, wrong stack number 2 here. You're made to feel relatively helpless because you have a little sling with a rock in it for the most part, and I think you could unlock more skills and more equipment, more gear as you were playing the game. This one's definitely up there for me, and it wasn't just a hype or critics and everything when I actually played it. Yeah, really good game. And I also played Requiem recently. You know, we'll cover that in a different video, I'm sure. This one, I think it edged it out a little bit. Like, I like this one a little bit more. It felt more authentic and not as forced. Anytime you have a relationship like this in its beginning stages, almost at infant stages, but it sort of is. But yeah, this one is a must play in my opinion. If you don't want to deal with too many aggressive rats and all that stuff, you know, enemies, then play it on the easiest difficulty. I mean, it's you will have a much better time, I'm sure, if combat and stealth isn't really your thing. And next one here, I think most people will be familiar with this one, and this is one of my favorite Xbox One exclusives, and it even came out with a sequel recently that I also played, and that's Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. And then before you PlayStation fanboys write an angry comment right now, I'm obviously kidding, because I know this was a PlayStation 4 exclusive, so hold on to your horses there. But this one obviously came out on Xbox One as well later on. But this feels like a PlayStation game, without a doubt. You could tell that this was not something that Xbox could have come up with. And, you know, that's just me being honest about it, because I know the Xbox exclusives and PlayStation exclusives are very different. But this one, no, I almost was going to buy a PlayStation 4 just to play this game. And I know it's a very short game again. I don't think this is more than maybe 6 to 8 hours. I think you can do it if you probably have like a guide to get the collectibles and everything. But I was very happy when this also got a physical on Xbox. We actually don't own the physical on PlayStation 4, but I'm still on the lookout for it. I think it may have gone up a little bit. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it went up due to the fact that now Ninja Theory and Hellblade is with Xbox. So, but yeah, thoroughly enjoyed this one. Obviously deals with a lot of really difficult subjects and yeah, mental health and dealing with trauma. And, you know, you go through these, yeah, phases of different things you have to overcome throughout the game. Yeah, so definitely if you want more focus on story again, rather than the gameplay is very simple. It's just kind of there to break up the story and then move it along, and definitely a very good game. It is kind of one of those games I would say you play it once, maybe twice, and then you kind of leave that experience there. So it's not like a game that I would play, you know, every week or every year kind of thing. Again, another must play, I would say, whether you have a PlayStation or an Xbox at this point. Yeah, and it was a much heavier game than I expected. And now I get to talk about more of my favorite series again, which is great, because this was a game that turned into a totally different experience after releasing 3 of them. And I didn't get this one at launch, which is kind of surprising, because this has been one of my favorites for a long time, and that is Hitman. So the Hitman reboot, in a sense, but this is the definitive edition that had like just a standard edition. There's also a steelbook of this one, which if you've seen that steelbook in stores, I have it like carefully wrapped up in plastic and, you know, because I redeemed the season pass or whatever it was at the time. But yeah, it ships so easily that, yeah, it scratches, chips, and we know steelbooks already don't have a good reputation for that. But this white coating on the steelbook, oh my god, it's impossible to keep it together. But yeah, Hitman, this is a masterpiece, and as you'll see here throughout, they did release more of them. But yeah, the episodes that I didn't actually go for at first worked incredibly well, in my opinion. And the way that they were able to release updates and fixes and real time, I'm not quite sure if they were to shut down the servers there, like if this would still be playable. But I know obviously companies can release patches that makes things unlockable offline and everything. So, but obviously you still need, I think, an internet connection to play most of this. But again, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong here, but I remember when I was playing Hitman, if my internet disconnected or something like that, I couldn't actually launch the missions, or I couldn't connect to something. But hopefully it's not as bad as it was back then when I played it. But Hitman is one of the best stealth games by far, and there's just so much replayability on these as well. And then we had Hitman 2, which obviously came after the first Hitman, and it continued in the same fashion here with access to the first game, and then you had new missions in Hitman 2. And it is a little bit confusing, I would say, and in terms of having a physical for this, I don't even know if it makes that much sense. But obviously as a collector, I wanted to have all of these games on disc as well. But in terms of what they're doing with updates and, you know, missions, how they released them, and if you had the season pass and all the missions and the game from the first one, you got it in this one as well. And then you had, yeah, like I said, the new missions. And so I remember when they were kind of redoing the format of this and then kind of shutting down services on some of them. And then, you know, obviously in Hitman World of Assassination, which is essentially Hitman 3 on Xbox Series X, then and you could play it on the Xbox One as well. So I would just play the first one, play the, you know, the missions in the second one, and then go on to the third. And I would probably say, you know, the finale and everything in 3, you know, it's incredible. But Hitman 2 was maybe the best one, because that's where they kind of had figured out most of the bugs and most of the issues with all the challenges and stuff, because I know in the beginning it was much harder to complete the challenges. But overall, I mean, I love Hitman games. I think they are so fun, and it is not to be missed. But if you just want to skip to Hitman 3, you get the experience of all 3 of them. It's just, you know, like I said, different achievement opportunities and missions and stuff. But otherwise, it should be exactly the same if you go for the third one. The next game, I want to preface this by saying that this is by no means the best game or my favorite game, but it is still one of the more unique games I played on Xbox One, and I wanted to include it because of the edition that I had, and I wanted to talk about kind of the DLC in this one as well, because I think just for that alone, it is worth it. But that's We Happy Few. And this is the deluxe edition. And I don't think I have to go into too much detail on the production of this game. I think it was probably one of the more hyped games at whatever it was, E3, and then it just took so long to come out. They had so many issues, and I haven't watched a YouTube documentary or something about Compulsion Games, which I'd really liked their games beforehand. I played Contrast on Xbox 360 and also on Xbox One. So you can definitely tell there was a lot of promise here, a lot of potential with this dev, and We Happy Few. I still think it delivered in a lot of ways. And then, I should say, with the deluxe edition, it comes with the DLC, which I will talk about here in a second. But I still think they delivered in some ways. But my main issue with the game was that they did this open world stuff, which I seriously think that was a big mistake. They shouldn't have done it, because you're just kind of trekking around these grass patches and going to these enemy outposts, and it just didn't work for me, like that whole thing. And I don't know if that was like something they had to do, but you know, that's not for me to answer. I have no idea, but it felt a little bit disjointed. However, I will say, when it came to the DLC, I loved the DLC. Like, that in itself is worth playing. If you just play through the game normally, you have to play through kind of like 3 different storylines. So it's a relatively long game. But once you kind of get through that and say, okay, you know, story was fine, gameplay was so-so, and then you get to the DLC, totally worth it. I don't know what happened, if it was because Microsoft acquired them or Gearbox was publishing, so maybe they gave them some extra money and time. That's when you get to see what they're capable of making, like that 100%. And it's not very often I say a DLC is better than the main game. In this case, that is 100% true. And I think you should give this game a try for one playthrough, and then do the DLC, and you'll know what I mean. Next game is definitely an interesting one, and this is obviously movie license based on a famous movie, and that's Mad Max. Also came out on PS4, of course, and this is by Avalanche Studios. And yeah, as you may know from Just Cause in particular, they also helped, of course, with Rage 2, which you can probably see after playing this one. You know, it's kind of the same wasteland vehicles, and yeah, it's a typical Mad Max stuff. But yeah, this one was pretty good. I really enjoyed this one as an open world game, at least. But I think yeah, the controls in this one are a little bit weird. So if you haven't played this one, definitely get ready to, unless you can remap them. I don't even think you can remap the controls, but it's got a very interesting button layout on this game. I don't know why they did it that way, but it must have been because of how the driving mechanics were or something. But yeah, the Mad Max is what you would expect of something like a Rage game, or you know, lots of vehicles and enemies, and it has kind of the close quarter combat fighting style, like you know, you would see in Arkham, or you know, in Shadow Mordor. So, but yeah, I like going to the outposts. I like destroying things, and the weapons felt powerful as well. And it's well worth trying out for that post-apocalyptic game that you've been looking for. And the next game didn't surprise me as much as it was through and through very enjoyable game. And I think this is at the top of many people's lists, really. And I love the developer. I've said that many times. I've covered many of their games. And it's not like this is a hidden gem or anything like that. So this is Control. This first came out on Xbox One and PS4. A little bit later, though. I think it was like right before the Series X. So this is a pretty late game in that generation. I think it was like 2019, 2020, something like that. But again, with Control, didn't disappoint. You know, just like Quantum Break. And I will be honest up front, I still liked Quantum Break more than Control for some reason. But it may have been just because it was more unique. This one obviously has similar powers to what you had in Quantum Break. It's a little bit sillier, some of the dialogue, and then the Finnish janitor and stuff. So this one didn't take itself as seriously as Quantum Break, I would say. But both games are really good, typical Remedy style. And yeah, I would say I enjoyed this one just as much as Quantum Break. Maybe Quantum Break, like I said, edged it out a little bit because of the story. I wasn't as invested in the story in this one, but the gameplay was so much fun. Like all the superpowers and, you know, telekinesis. You had special attachments you had on your guns, and yeah, fascinating enemy encounters. And if you don't want to just get the standard edition just for a collectible. But yeah, we had Control Ultimate Edition here. And I'd played this one. I think I may have actually bought the DLC digitally, so I just had it with yeah, with that edition right there. And then they released kind of a Series X Xbox One. But then there's also another edition of this one, which is a little bit confusing. So yeah, this is still the Xbox One version of the game. And then you have you have one edition here that only says Xbox Series X, and that's the Xbox Series X edition with the DLC on there as well. So, but it has, yeah, the Foundation and AWE, Altered World Events, I think it stood for. Or some people joked Alan Wake expansion, which it kind of was, but not quite, you know. But as you know, if you played Alan Wake 2 at this point, you know that they're all interconnected universes now, where Control and the Federal Bureau of Control is yeah, now in the Alan Wake universe and everything. And yeah, I think it's fascinating what they're doing with these series now, and I love it all. Control is one of those games that I would highly recommend playing if you're into kind of the supernatural third-person shooters with some cool weapons, attachments, and superpowers and everything. Then this one will be right up your alley. And then we have another exclusive here, and I think that's probably why I included it in this list. This is by no means the best platformer out there. I enjoyed it though, and probably because a lot of people didn't enjoy it, so maybe it just gave me less expectations of it. But that was Super Lucky's Tale, and this is no Astrobot, I understand that, but still, I think it was a half-decent attempt at least to make some sort of a 3D platformer that could be called, you know, a decent enough exclusive. And like I said, I went into this with very low expectations because everyone's like, oh, the camera is so terrible, and you know, this you know, what kind of exclusive is this for Xbox? And you know, a lot of complaints about it. But if you like 3D platformers, which I will share with you, I actually don't really love 3D platformers. I'm more of a 2D platformer kind of guy. But if you do like the 3D platformers, this is a good choice. You know, this is like, I would say, a 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 platformer. And they actually had a new Super Lucky's Tale that you can play through Game Pass. You can also buy it digitally, of course. But this is, if you want a physical, this is what this one looks like. And it is an exclusive, like I said. So I enjoyed it for what it was. It was relatively challenging as well, as a lot of 3D platformers are. You're not going to get blown away, especially if you just played Astrobot or anything like that, or Super Mario 64 or whatever it is. But still, if you are an Xbox gamer and you're looking for a different type of platformer, but Ori and stuff like that, you know, give it a try. You know, if you have Game Pass, give new Super Lucky's Tale a try. Okay, moving on to another game that I was on the fence about including in this list, but due to it being relatively unique, especially coming from this company right here, that don't make a lot of games like this. There have been 2 of them in this so-called series, if you don't count the phone game that I actually played as well, and that's Mirror's Edge Catalyst. And this is like the cheapest physical you can probably get on the Xbox One at this point, besides possibly the next game I'm going to talk about. And the reason why I was on the fence about this one, because I forever will believe that Mirror's Edge is like a solid 7 out of 10 game. Like, I've tried so many times to make it be a much better game than 7 out of 10. And I still enjoy so many things about Mirror's Edge, like the parkour. There's nothing really like it in any other game. I guess you can say that maybe Dying Light has tried to challenge the parkour a little bit in terms of like a first-person game. But in terms of first-person running and stuff, I mean, this is one of the best by far. And I would probably say it's the first game that really mastered the first-person parkour, which all the other parkour or any kind of platforming would be, you know, 2D or 3D. But like the first-person thing is, and it's it's a little bit difficult to play as well. If you definitely aren't used to that kind of stuff, then yeah, you can get a little bit motion sick, I would say, from the heights and the different moves you have to make. But I recently actually played Catalyst, and after playing Mirror's Edge on the 360, and it is absolutely a very unique game. So if you're looking for something different than like a first-person shooter or, you know, any kind of platformer, and you haven't played Mirror's Edge before, you will have a good experience with it. People say it's always underrated, hidden gem. I think this is rated exactly where it should be. You know, like I don't think it's not a bad game. It's not a fantastic game. It's just where it needs to be, but it's still worth playing. And moving on to the final 2 games here, which I might just talk about them one after another here. The first one was an exclusive on Xbox One and Xbox 360. Second one was not, though, so that was also on PS4 as well. And that's Titanfall. And Titanfall was online required. So it's like an online only type of game. No real campaign for this one. But I feel like I had to include it because you can still play this game. I don't think it's very populated. This was kind of peak on Xbox One at the time. This is what people gathered around and played on Xbox One. I had so many friends that played this game, but I think I was playing Battlefield at the time, so there you go. We have a 2-day Xbox Live trial for Titanfall as well, which makes sense since it's a online-only game. But yeah, I was playing more Battlefield at the time, so I didn't really jump on Titanfall because I always wanted to have some sort of a campaign. And in hindsight, it may not have made much sense to make that decision of not playing Titanfall. But later on, I did play it. I wanted to have it on here because I still think it is a very good shooter. You can call in your Titan and then you go into full-out battle with other Titans and stuff. I mean, it's super fun, though. You can tell, yeah, it's the Modern Warfare guys that made this game, and the controls are tight, really fun shooter. But generally I don't like online only shooters and stuff, so that's why I can't rate it as high as most people do, but I still wanted to include it as a very good option if you are into that kind of stuff. And the final game is the sequel, which I recently played maybe a couple months ago. 100% completed that one. I also 100% completed Titanfall 1, but it wasn't as enjoyable as this one, I would say. So this is Titanfall 2. And this one also came out on PS4, like I said. So I think a lot of people have actually played it. But this one maybe wasn't as appreciated at the time and flew under the radar. Because I actually made a short on my individual channel, and a lot of people are saying like there was hackers that ruined this game, and lots of other things that came out like right before Battlefield or something. It was just like the launch of this game was kind of a disaster for marketing and the timing of it too. So it's such a shame because this one is a really good shooter, really good game. So I would give this one almost top marks in terms of kind of the shooters that I played in the last 5 years. Yeah, really good game. And I think if you have played it, and if you share that sentiment, I'm sure you would have the same rating as I have of this one. And it just kind of happens, right? Like years after a game came out, didn't get as much attention. I ignored it too. I think I got this game pretty close after launch, like Black Friday. It was very cheap. Just left it because I knew it was just kind of a campaign and a couple of multiplayer achievements or whatever. I wonder what type of game this really could have been if it had that fan base that Titanfall 1 had. Give this one a try if you're looking for a different kind of campaign and first-person shooter than, you know, your typical Call of Duties, I would say. So that's going to be it for today, and I hope you enjoyed and found it helpful. These are titles I would highly recommend to anyone starting or adding to their Xbox One collection. Also, don't forget to check out this Xbox One video right here.